June 15, 1944, 10:23 a.m. over the Pacific, 20,000 feet above the Mariana Islands. The sky is too bright to look at. Sunlight burns off polished aluminum as ninty. Two bombers crawl east to west in perfect formation. Their wings stretch wider than a tennis court. Their engines, four Wright R-3350 Cyclones, each hammer the thin air with a steady mechanical roar. Inside one of them, the air is so cold it bites through wool gloves. Captain Robert Morgan leans forward in the cockpit of his B-29 Superfortress. Oxygen mask tight, eyes scanning instruments. He checks altitude again. Higher. They climb. The altimeter creeps past 25,000 feet. The Pacific below dissolves into haze. You can almost feel the pressure in your ears, the dryness in your throat. Above them, nothing but blue. Below them, Japan. In Tokyo, months earlier, the tone had been very different. Inside a dim, polished conference room in the Imperial General Headquarters, senior officers of the Imperial Japanese Army Air Service studied intelligence reports. The Americans were developing a new bomber, larger than the B-17, longer range, pressurized cabins. General Hideki Tojo listened as an aide summarized the findings. The Americans were building airfields in China, possibly in India. There was talk of bases in the Pacific Islands. An officer, Colonel Masatake Okumiyata, dismissed the concern. Even if they attempt high-altitude bombing, he reportedly said in private briefings, our fighters will intercept. Their accuracy will be poor. The distances are too great. The home islands were safe. Geography was armor. Distance was shield. And altitude? Altitude was a myth. Japanese doctrine believed no bomber could operate effectively at extreme height over Japan. Engines would fail, crews would freeze, bombs dropped from that far up would scatter uselessly. Confidence hardened into certainty. After all, they had experience. In 1942, the Doolittle raid had shocked the nation, but it was a one-time stunt. 16 B-25s launched from a carrier. Light damage. Propaganda victory for America? Yes, but strategically insignificant. The Japanese air defense system remained intact. The home islands remained beyond sustained reach, or so they believed. Back over the Pacific in June 1944, the new bomber formation continues climbing. The B-29 is not like the others. Pressurized cabins mean the crew can function at altitudes where older bombers turn into flying coffins. Remote-controlled gun turrets mean fewer exposed gunners. A central fire control system calculates lead angles faster than any human brain. And range, 3,000 miles. From the newly captured Mariana Islands, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, the B-29 can strike the Japanese mainland and return without refueling. This is not a raid, this is a campaign. In the cockpit, Morgan receives the coded message. Primary target confirmed, Yawata, northern Kyushu, home to the Imperial Steelworks, the beating heart of Japanese war industry below. The first black puffs begin to appear. Anti-aircraft fire. Japanese gunners scramble to adjust their Type 88 75mm anti-aircraft guns. Radar coverage is limited. Range finding at this altitude is guesswork. The bombers are higher than expected, higher than comfortable, higher than believed possible. Japanese fighter pilots in Nakajima Ki-43 Oscars and Mitsubishi A6M0s push their throttles forward. Engines scream. They climb steeply, oxygen systems straining, but the B-29s are already above 28,000 feet. The fighters claw upward, but performance drops. Engines sputter in thin air. The intercept angle is wrong. By the time they reach firing position, the American bombers are already stabilizing on their bombing run. Inside the bombardier's compartment, Lieutenant Charles Chuck Madison lies, prone over the Norden bomb site. He adjusts for wind drift, for speed, for altitude. Bomb bay doors open. The aircraft shudders as hydraulics engage. Cold air floods the fuselage. Below, the industrial complex of Yawata sits in the sun-steel furnaces. Rail yards, smokestacks. Madison inhales slowly. Steady. The crosshairs settle. Bombs away. The B-29 lurches upward. As 2,000-pound bombs fall cleanly into open sky. From 28,000 feet, the city looks unreal, toy-like, harmless. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the ground blooms. Orange. Flashes, black smoke. Shockwaves ripple across rooftops. Steel sheds collapse inward. Rail lines twist. Workers scatter like ants. The first sustained bombing of the Japanese home islands has begun. Back in Tokyo, reports begin filtering in hours later. Damage limited, some say. Casualties manageable, but something unsettles the staff officers. The MUT's altitude interception reports show difficulty engaging above 25,000 feet. Anti-aircraft accuracy drops sharply at extreme height. Radar tracking inconsistent. The Americans are not scraping rooftops. They are attacking from the edge of the stratosphere, and they are coming from islands Japan had once considered peripheral. In NUS, private conversations, junior officers whisper what senior commanders will not say aloud. The perimeter has collapsed. The Marianas were supposed to be an outer defensive ring. Now they are a launch pad. Yet even then, many in the high command remain skeptical. High-altitude precision bombing over Japan's frequent cloud cover? Over long distances? Through jet stream winds exceeding 100 knots? The Americans will struggle. Their accuracy will suffer. The weather will protect us. Confidence persists. Pride demands it. But far to the south, on the coral runways of Tinian, construction crews are already expanding airfields. Thousands of B-29s are scheduled to arrive, entire air groups forming, fuel depots swelling. The Superfortress is not a single weapon, it is a system, and Japan's defenses designed for a different war era, about to be tested in ways they never anticipated, because altitude was only the beginning. November 24, 1944, 1:02 p.m., 30,000 feet above Tokyo. The city is hidden under a silver blanket of cloud. From this height, Tokyo looks peaceful. The Sumida River curves gently through mist. The Imperial Palace grounds sit like a dark island in the center of it all. Streetcars move faintly below, oblivious, or pretending to be. Inside the lead B-29, Brigadier General Haywood S. Hansel, Jr. adjusts his headset. He commands Reichsjäger Bomber Command from the cockpit today. This is no longer a test. This is the first full-scale strike against the Japanese capital itself. The engines vibrate through the pressurized fuselage. The formation stretches for miles, over 100 superfortresses, advancing in disciplined silence. Hansel believes in precision. Industrial targets, aircraft factories, engine plants, bomb high, bomb accurately, cripple production. He trusts the Norden bomb site. He trusts altitude. He trusts doctrine. But Tokyo is not Europe. As the bombers approach the Musashino aircraft plant where Mitsubishi builds fighters, the problem reveals itself. The jet stream. Discovered only recently by American meteorologists, the high-altitude winds over Japan are savage. At 30,000 feet, they roar at 150 miles per hour. The B-29s shudder sideways as invisible currents grab their wings. Bombardiers fight their sights. Crosshairs drift. Corrections overcorrect. Hold it steady. Hold it. The bomb run stretches. Longer than planned. Aircraft struggle to maintain formation. Spacing widens. Timing falters. Below, Japanese radar stations have improved since summer. Observers track the incoming formation earlier now. Sirens begin to wail across Tokyo. On the ground, school children wearing hoods hurry into air raid shelters. Factory. Workers glance skyward, unsure. They've heard the rumors, these new bombers fly too high to reach. Major Yoshito Yasuda of the Imperial Japanese Army Air Service scrambles from Tachikawa Airfield in a Kawasaki Ki-61 Hien. His unit has trained. For this, climb steeply, attack head-on. Aim for cockpit glass. He pulls back hard on the stick. The climb is punishing. At 26,000 feet, the engine begins to protest. Oxygen thin, fuel mixture delicate. He pushes higher anyway. Through the canopy he sees them. Silver specks against brilliant sky, so high, Yasuda lines up for a frontal pass. The B-29 grows enormous in seconds-wide wings. Blunt nose, gun turrets swiveling. He squeezes the trigger. His cannons spit fire. Tracer rounds streak upward. Then the Superfortress answers. Its central fire control system calculates his trajectory. Remote turrets adjust with mechanical precision. 50 caliber rounds slam toward him from angles he cannot predict. The sky becomes a crossing grid of death. Yasuda banks hard. One engine coughs. He dives away, shaken. The American bomber continues, on course, scarred, but steady. Up in the lead aircraft, bombs begin to fall, but the jet stream has its say. Explosions scatter wide of the factory complex. Some bombs strike residential districts, others land in open fields. Smoke rises, but the target remains largely functional. After the mission, Hansel studies the reconnaissance photographs. Damage, limited. Sorties flown. Over 100. Bombs dropped. From 30,000 feet. Results, underwhelming. In Washington, frustration grows. The B-29 is the most expensive weapon system of the war. Each aircraft costs more than a destroyer. Expectations are enormous. Yet Japan's cloud cover, wind shear, and dispersed industry blunt the high-altitude precision strategy. Inside the Japanese high command, a fragile confidence begins to reform. See, the skeptics whisper, their accuracy is poor, our factories still stand, high altitude saves us, but something else is happening. Each raid forces Japan to divert more fighters to home defense. More anti-aircraft batteries are repositioned around urban centers. Fuel already scarce burns rapidly in futile climbs to unreachable altitudes. Every interception attempt drains resources, and American crews are learning. They study wind patterns. They analyze bomb drift. They examine weaknesses in Japanese night defenses. Then, in January 1945, a new commander arrives in the Marianas, Major General Curtis LeMay, thick glasses, cigar clenched between teeth. Voice flat, almost bored. LeMay reviews the bombing reports and does not like what he sees. Precision at high altitude is not destroying Japan fast enough. Weather interferes. Jet streams scatter bombs. Targets disperse production into small workshops. Hidden among residential neighborhoods, LeMay thinks differently. He studies Japanese cities built largely of wood and paper. Narrow streets, dense housing, limited firefighting capability. He studies incendiary bomb tests conducted in Utah desert replicas of Japanese neighborhoods. He studies wind forecasts, and then he makes a decision that will change everything. Strip the bombers of most defensive guns to lighten weight, fly lower at night, carry incendiaries instead of high explosives. It is a gamble. Lower altitude means vulnerability. Night operations mean coordination challenges. Removing guns means fewer defenses against fighters. But LeMay calculates something cold and simple. Japanese night fighter capability is weak. Radar control is inconsistent. Searchlights struggle to lock onto fast-moving aircraft, and cities burn. Back in Tokyo, no one knows what is coming. They believe the Americans will persist with high-altitude precision raids. They prepare anti-aircraft batteries accordingly. They adjust daytime fighter patrols. They do not anticipate what LeMay is about to unleash because the Superfortress has not yet shown its true form. And the next time it comes, it will not be hunting factories. It will be hunting cities. March 9, 1945, 10:47 p.m., 7,000 feet above Tokyo. The city is dark, blackout curtains drawn. Streetlights extinguished. The Sumida River reflects only faint starlight. A cold wind moves through wooden neighborhoods, rows of tightly packed homes built from timber, paper, and hope. Then the sirens begin. Not the scattered wail of previous raids, a rising, continuous scream. In the cockpit of a B-29 named the Great Artiste, the altimeter reads just over 7,000 feet, lower than any large-scale raid before it. The aircraft feels different here, closer to the earth, closer to danger. Major General Curtis LeMay's orders are simple. Bomb the city center. Saturate it with incendiaries. Let physics do the rest. The bomb bays open, instead of large, high-explosive. Bombs, clusters of M69 incendiaries tumble out small, cylindrical devices packed with jellied gasoline. Each cluster breaks apart mid-air, scattering dozens of individual firebombs across a wide radius. From above, they fall like sparks from a forge. On the ground, a factory worker named Kenji Nakamura looks up just in time to see the first canisters. Strike rooftops, they punch through tiles, a moment of stillness, then white-hot flame erupts, spraying burning gel in all directions. Within seconds, dozens of fires ignite across the Shitamachi district. Wind pushes flames from house to house. Wooden beams catch instantly. Paper walls vanish in flashes of orange. Fire spreads faster than thought. Back in the air, B-29 formations approach in waves, over 300 aircraft, each flying independently at low altitude, spaced to avoid collision in the dark. No tight. Daylight formation. No neat geometry. Just a conveyor belt of fire. Japanese anti-aircraft batteries respond, but their calculations are built for high altitude. Fuses set too long. Shells burst above the bombers or too far behind. Searchlights claw at the sky, occasionally catching a silver belly, but coordination falters. Night fighters scramble. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai, veteran ace, later describes the chaos smoke columns rising so high they disrupt air currents, turbulence, rocking aircraft unexpectedly. But Japanese night interception capability is thin. Radar control is primitive compared to Allied systems. Communication between ground stations and pilots is fragmented, and the B-29s, lighter now without many of their guns, fly faster at this altitude. Below, the fires merge. Wind speed increases as heated air rises rapidly, pulling oxygen from surrounding districts. Individual blazes connect into a single, monstrous phenomenon, a firestorm. Temperatures soar above 800 degrees Celsius. Asphalt softens, metal bends. Oxygen is sucked from alleyways with hurricane force. People fleeing toward canals find the air itself unbreathable. Kenji runs with his wife toward the Sumida River. Embers rain down like meteors. The heat presses against his back. He hears a sound unlike anything before, deep roaring in hail, as the fire consumes entire blocks at once. Children collapse from smoke inhalation. Elderly residents stumble, disoriented. Firefighting brigades attempt bucket lines, but the scale overwhelms them instantly. Water boils in narrow canals. Above it all, the B-29 crews see something they have never seen before. The city glows. Not with scattered impacts, but with a unified rolling sea of flame stretching miles across. Turbulence intensifies as rising heat columns buffet the bombers. Some aircraft experience sudden drops as oxygen-depleted air pockets disrupt lift. Crews smell smoke even through sealed cabins. One gunner mutters over intercom, "My God." By dawn, over 16 square miles of Tokyo are reduced to ash. Estimates of the dead will later exceed 80,000, possibly over 100,000 in a single night. More than many individual European bombing raids combined, possibly more than either atomic bombing and immediate fatalities. When the reconnaissance photos are developed, LeMay studies them without visible emotion. The results are undeniable. Industrial. Output in the targeted districts collapses, not because specific factories were destroyed, but because the workforce is gone. Small workshops integral to dispersed aircraft production have vanished along with the neighborhoods that housed them. In Tokyo, imperial officials walk through fields of smoldering debris. The smell lingers, charred wood, melted infrastructure, something far worse beneath it. Yet public statements remain controlled. Damage severe, but manageable. Morale intact. The language of endurance persists. But privately, military planners understand something has shifted. The Americans no longer need perfect weather. They no longer need precision. They have discovered Japan's structural vulnerability, its cities themselves, and they are willing to exploit it. In the following weeks, the pattern repeats. Nagoya, Osaka, Kobe. Each city experiences similar night slow-flying superfortresses blanketing. Urban cores with incendiaries. Japanese air defenses adapt slowly, but fuel shortages worsen. Aircraft production drops. Pilot training hours shrink. Replacement parts become scarce. Still, no surrender. In underground bunkers, leaders debate strategy. Some advocate decisive battle on the beaches when invasion comes. Others hope for Soviet mediation, but above them, the sky belongs to the Superfortress, and LeMay has not finished. Because even as Japan struggles to comprehend the scale of destruction, a different kind of weapon is quietly being prepared on an island called Tinian, a weapon that will ride inside a B-29 and end the argument about altitude forever, August 6, 1945. 2:45 a.m., North Field, Tinian Island. The runway. Lights glow faintly in the humid darkness. Ground crews move with deliberate calm around a silver B-29, unlike the others. Its name is painted carefully beneath the cockpit window. Enola Gay, Colonel Paul W. Tibbets, Jr., climbs into the left seat. He runs a hand along the control yoke, steadying himself. Around him, technicians finish loading a single bomb into these modified bay below. It is longer than a man is tall. They call it Little Boy. No incendiary clusters tonight. No scattered firebombs. Just one device simple in shape, unimaginable in consequence. At 2:58 a.m., the engines ignite in sequence. 4 Wright R-3350s thunder to life. The aircraft begins its heavy roll down the runway, straining under unprecedented weight. The wheels lift, and the Superfortress climbs into darkness. Hours later, at 31,000 feet over southern Honshu, the sky is clear. Tibbets adjusts course toward Hiroshima. Below, the city wakes to an ordinary Monday. Streetcars run. Students gather for labor mobilization. Military headquarters operate as usual. Hiroshima has been spared the worst of the firebombing campaign. Its buildings still stand. Its bridges still span the Ota River Delta, Japanese radar. Stations detect incoming aircraft, but only a few. A weather plane, a small formation. Nothing resembling the mass raids that have become routine. Air raid sirens sound briefly, then fall silent. The assumption lingers, small reconnaissance flight. No need for mass panic. Inside Enola Gay, Bombardier Major Thomas Farabee lies over the Norden site one final time. The ritual is familiar. Calculate drift, confirm speed, steady the crosshairs. Target, Aoi Bridge. Altitude, 31,000 feet. Wind minimal. At 8:15 a.m., Farabee presses the release. Bomb away, the aircraft jolts upward as the Ninty 7,000-pound. Device drops cleanly into morning air. Tibbets banks hard, executing a sharp 155-degree turn to escape the blast radius. Crew members count silently. 43 seconds. Below, the bomb detonates approximately 1,700 feet above the city. For an instant, there is no sound-only light. A blinding white flash swallows Hiroshima. Shadows burn permanently into stone. The temperature at the hypocenter reaches levels hotter than the surface of the sun. Then comes the shockwave. Buildings implode outward. Wooden homes disintegrate. Steel frames twist like wire. Human forms vanish where they stand. From 31,000 feet, the crew sees a column rising dense, boiling, violent. A mushroom cloud punches through the sky, climbing past their altitude. Higher still, into the stratosphere, one crew member whispers, "My God, what have we done?" Back in Tokyo, fragmented reports arrive within hours. A new type of bomb, complete destruction of Hiroshima's center, communication cut. Initial disbelief collides with mounting evidence. 3 days later, on August 9th, another B-29 boxcar, piloted by Major Charles Sweeney, repeats the mission over Nagasaki after cloud cover obscures the primary target. Again, from high altitude. Again, beyond reliable interception. Japan's air defenses, already crippled by months of firebombing, cannot meaningfully respond. The B-29, once mocked as impractical at extreme height, has delivered something beyond conventional destruction. Within the Imperial War Council, division fractures into urgency. Some leaders argue for continued resistance, hoping for Soviet mediation or decisive homeland battle. Others see the strategic reality, cities erased in single flashes, air superiority absolute, industrial base shattered, civilian suffering catastrophic on. August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito's voice broadcasts across the nation, for the first time. The war is over. In the aftermath, American occupation forces photograph miles of flattened urban landscape. Analysts tally numbers, sorties flown, tonnage dropped, square miles destroyed. The statistics are staggering. Over 66 major Japanese cities heavily damaged, hundreds of thousands dead from conventional and atomic bombing combined. Industrial production crippled, not by singular factory strikes, but by the systematic unraveling of urban infrastructure. The B-29 campaign had evolved from high-altitude precision optimism to low-level incendiary devastation to atomic finality, and through it all, one belief had collapsed completely, that Japan's home islands were beyond reach. That altitude was protection, that geography guaranteed safety. In the end, the Superfortress did not just outfly Japanese defenses, it outgrew them from 30,000 feet in daylight to 7,000 feet at night, to 31,000 feet with a single bomb that changed history. The officers who once dismissed the threat had underestimated more than an aircraft. They had underestimated adaptation, technology, strategy, relentless escalation. Because the B-29 was never just a bomber, it was proof that the sky itself had become a battlefield no island could hide from, and once that realization arrived, cities began to vanish.